So I made this little Twine game teaching you how to use Twine. So when you open up Twine, you can use it on the web, you can download it, you can use it however you want. This is what you're going to see. We're going to use Twine 2 because that's what I use, and if you want to branch out from there, you can use Twine 1. It's up to you. So we're going to import from the file. Just now. And we're going to use this. Okay, so when you have a story, this is what it will look like. And let's get into it. So this is basically what Twine looks like on the inside. You have all of these lovely menus, this one being super important. This is where you can publish your story, rename it, change the format, do things of that nature. This is your play button where you can test it out and play it, and this is your test button which plays it in test mode. We're going to use a story format called Harlow. There are 3 story formats to start in Twine 2, and those are Harlow, Sugar Cube, and Snowman. I made my thesis game in Sugar Cube just because the look and feel of it is a little bit different than Harlow, and that's sort of what I wanted. Snowman is for people, as it says, who are a little more experienced with writing web code. I wanted to focus for this lesson on not using any programming beyond what Twine can do in and of itself, simply because I really wanted to start at the beginning, and make it easiest for actual beginners who are either afraid of writing HTML or CSS, or people who just prefer not to for whatever reason. So that's what we're going to do. So, okay. So in Twine, there are some little kind of signifiers for the way that things work. So this passage here, which has a thicker, each chunk of a Twine story is called a passage. This one here, which is outlined a little bit thicker, and this rocket ship icon, indicates that this is the opening passage. So this is the first thing that people will see when they try to play your game. In my case, this is it. It just has a little bit of introduction and things that I just said. The way Twine works is you connect passages to each other, and you can see these little arrows showing you which passages connect to which. When they have a double arrow like this, it means I've connected back. Harlow, as a story format, has this super helpful, this super helpful arrow. Well, not here, but will have an arrow so that you can make it through your story. But I like to leave backlinks in all of my passages just to make it easier to navigate. So in a passage, you double click them to open them. You can tag them, and that can come in useful later, or you can not, that's up to you. In a passage, you have very, very simple structure. I have some HTML in here just to make it look nicer for teaching, and I will give everybody the link so you can download this story and play with it as you want. But basically, the only thing you really need to do in Twine is to connect passages to each other. And the way that we do that is we use these double brackets. So as you can see in the live story, these are my links, which link to the next parts. These just link to passage titles. Like I say here, you can write text and then use an arrow to connect it to the actual name of the passage. It needs to be exact, it needs to be case sensitive, dash sensitive, all of that, or else it will break. Twine autosaves as you work, and this is really important. It's autosaving to your browser, even if you use a downloaded version. So if you need to clear your cache for some reason, you need to make sure to archive, and we can do that from the home page. We can use this archive button and save them somewhere locally. So, yeah. Like I said, I included back pages just because it can be useful. So if we click next here, you can format your text. And here's that back arrow that I was talking about before. You can format your text with commands native to Twine, or you can use HTML tags. And because Twine, HTML, JavaScript, and CSS use special symbols. You can let Twine know that you just want to display the symbol itself using backticks, and you can see me do that right here. Well, not right here, but there. See how, and they're grayed out because Twine's saying, okay, this is just a symbol. We don't want to do anything else. You can test your story. If you hover over a cell and you can click this bug icon, you can test the story, or you can play the story from starting here. You can set it as the starting point. So if you ever need to change that, you can edit it, you can delete it. I just double click them to edit them based on force of habit. Honestly, passages are all you need to create a Twine story. You can make a really extensive, really cool story just by linking passages together. And when you're done, you can publish it by clicking Publish to File, which we talked about. And here I talk about the menus. When you click Publish to File, you'll get an HTML file downloaded to your computer. If you use Safari, this button opens up a new tab with a bunch of code in it. You need to click File, Save As. Now all you have to do is post the HTML file to a website. I like itch.io. Other people might like other things. Clearly I'm struggling using Taro's computer. It's possible to share your Twine story from your Google Drive or your Dropbox, but it's not recommended. It doesn't work very well. I wouldn't do it. What I tend to do is save my versions in my Dropbox, and then I'll upload the latest version to my itch.io just so that I can access it on different computers if I need to while I'm working on it, but I don't actually ever share it from those services. So you can obviously get more fancy with it if you want to. You can do some basic Twine programming with things called macros, variables, and hooks. So macros are sort of like your JavaScript kind of, and so are variables. So they're going to tell your story to do something, like set a variable, display something, change a text style. They're written in parentheses like that. Variables are things that you want your story to remember, like the player's inventory, or a name that the player sets for something, or things of that nature. They're written with a $, and if you know any JavaScript or jQuery, that's pretty familiar. Hooks are written like that. Hooks are basically a special type of text. You're going to put the hook's name in between single brackets, not doubles, because that's for a passage, and you can combine macros, variables, and name tags with hooks. You can also add image, video, or sounds, but you will need a little bit of HTML for that in Twine 2. In Twine 1, it's a little easier without HTML, but Twine 1 has its limitations. And then obviously you will probably need to debug at some point. So let's start with that, assuming you aren't comfortable playing with anything but passages. If a passage is red like that, it's broken and needs to be debugged. You can double click it and use the test view that we talked about to see if you can figure out what's wrong with it. This says macros, I changed it to debugging later. I typed the name of a passage wrong, so Twine didn't know where to connect it to. And when I went into it, I could determine this because the link didn't look nice like my other passage links. It was red and I got a cursor with an arrow through it. Harlow gives you a debug view in your test view so you can check your code over again, and I will show that to you right now. So if we go into test view, and I fixed it since I broke it, but regardless, they give you this nice debug view. If it loads. Maybe not. What it would do normally is, there we go. Yeah, see, it tells you where your links are going, what they're doing. I don't have a whole lot of programming on all of these pages, so debug view is not going to change a whole lot. The only other real debugging you would need to do is if you were only using passages to spell check, because Twine itself doesn't have a spell checker. So you can either write your passages text in Word or something like that that spell checks for you and then post it into Twine, or you can open up your menu here and you can click View Proofing Copy, and this will show you this nice clean version of your Twine story without many extra things. And I'm going to recommend the Twine forums and the Harlow documentation throughout this, just because I didn't get too terribly deep into Twine. Anytime I had a problem with anything, I literally could just Google like Twine 2 blah 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 problem and find some sort of answer, but you can also just search the forums. And as long as you tell people in the forums what story format you're using and which version of Twine you're using, they're more than happy to help you out. So, macros, let's go back a couple more. You can, before we get into the craziness, like I said, format your text. Strike-through will not create a strike-through that you're used to. It's like a black, almost like a spoiler thing if you're used to forums that black out spoilers, and then you can highlight the text to show what it is. Bold and italics do what they say on the label, and superscript does what it says on the label as well. So macros. Macros are pieces of code that tell your game to do different things, like we said. You call them by your names. You're used to this if you know any sort of programming at all. They are not case, dash, or underscore sensitive, which is nice. You can nest them inside of each other, like if-else statements, and you can use variables inside of them as well. You can set them to multiple numerical values or strings, which are lines of text, as long as you separate them with commas. The most important macro, I think, for beginners would be if, which tells your game to do something if something else exists. So I give the example of an inventory here. You might want your player to be able to accomplish something only if they have some other item or they have been to a certain passage, and that's also where tags can come in handy. You can let your players see something that is related to all the other passages you've tagged that way. Either way, you need to ask your game to check for a key using an if. You do this with both hooks and macros using syntax like this. So here, well, hooks, variables, and macros. So here's our macro saying if this variable inventory contains the object key. And the thing I like about Twine is it uses all these like very simple words like is not, contains, things of that nature. You can get a whole list of them in the Harlow documentation. This is our hook saying you put the key into the lock, and the door, this opens your next passage, swings open ominously. So if the player does not have the key, this will tell Twine, don't even show them this line of text, and that's why it's in the hook. And you can use other macros with if. Here's our Harlow documentation on macros. Some of this is a little high level for what I wanted, but it's also very helpful. And it also talks about unless and else if. So for example, these are different things that would happen in a Twine game depending on other things that the player had input or done in the past. And as you can see here, it's saying we're going to check for this. If it's not giant, we're going to check if it's big. If it's not that, if it's anything else, this is what it's going to say. And there's a whole bunch of other macros, but I felt that if was the most important for this case. So from here, let's go to hooks. So they're, like I just said, they're indicating that a specific part of your passage is important. They're written in single brackets. You can use them to change text style. You can then use them with variables. It's pretty simple and it makes a lot of sense if you've done any sort of programming before, but basically you should just think about it as a hook is a special piece of text that you want to look different or act different for some reason based on your story. And then I bring up if again because I think it's really useful for these sorts of things. So in this case, if the robot name is your name, like if anyone's played Undertale, if might know, if you name the character certain things will happen. So you could do that. You could say, hey, if the player inputs this name for their robot, say this. And then the last thing we have are variables, like inventory or names, things like that. You can display them with print. If you want to only display a single variable, you can just call it. And you can connect it to a hook, like we said. That'll work like this. The last thing, well, close to the last thing, images, video, and sounds. So So you can set an image to be the background of your story, you can set an image to display on a story, you can set a sound to play if a door opens or things like that happen, you can put animated GIFs, do whatever you want, but you will need a little bit of HTML, which is pretty simple and not very scary. And you probably used it on your MySpace layouts if you did that. You can use the image tag, which works like this. Remember to close it. I really recommend, I always pronounce it Imgur, sorry if people pronounce it differently, for hosting images. So I like to create an account and upload my files to an album. That way I can see all the different share links, because you want this forums one. For some reason, I can never get this straight link to work, so this is the one that always works for me. Then I put that URL in my image tag, and lo and behold, here's our GIF. Videos and audio work the same way in Harlow. Instead of an image tag though, we're gonna want a video or an audio tag. YouTube gives you embed codes. Under the video, there's a share tab, and that gives you the code, and you can literally just drop it right in, and there it is. You can use URLs the same way for sound effects, ambient music. I like Freesound for sound effects, but you'll have to download them. It gets a little more complicated when you're not using sounds or video or images that you have locally, which is why I really recommend uploading them to some sort of site that you control, just so that you know that these links won't break. This link that I have won't actually work because this is just linking to the download page, but it's an example of how you would set up. Oops, there's my backticks. Sorry, I made this in 5 minutes. This is just an example of how you would set it up. So I wrote autoplay here, because if this link and this sound actually worked, we would have a Mario coin noise when I opened this passage. However, if you want something like music that's just sort of ambient the entire time your player is playing, you're gonna need to set that up a little differently, but it's a little more complicated than I wanted to get with this lesson. So again, I recommend the Twine forums, Googling around, or the Harlow documentation itself. And then here's a guide for doing it in Twine 1, which is way simpler for some reason. Basically, that's all there is to it, because we already looked at debugging. I added this more help passage. These are links. Don't do this to me. These are basically links to the, I'm gonna go back to the beginning. Oh, I've made a fatal error. Okay. No. See, this is why I like my back passages, because now it won't let me open this. What are you? Yay! Keep that, yeah, that's nice. Alright. Oh, I wonder if it was opening in a new window. Yep. There we go. So, Twine Wiki, Twine Forum, here's an inventory setup, and the 3 different documentations for the 3 different story formats. That is honestly pretty much all there is to Twine. And it's really simple and it's really powerful. You can kind of click and drag these and place them anywhere you want. You can snap them to a grid. Maybe won't do anything, whatever. Oh, when I drag them, they'll snap, huh? Nope, maybe not. Mysteries. Anyway, if you wanted to add JavaScript or a style sheet, this is different from Twine 1. You can do that here, and it will create, well, it used to. In Twine 1, you create your own passage and tell it that it's the JavaScript passage. In Twine 2, you can do it that way. So there's 2 ways to create a new passage. You can click this Add New Passage button, and one will pop up. Or, in a passage, you can put a 5 somewhere because you don't know how to use a PC. You can just make a new one like this, and Twine will pop one out and automatically connect it for you. If you get in the habit of doing that, make sure that you're remembering exactly what you call them, because like I said, it's kind of tricksy to reconnect to them just because you need it to be precisely this. However, Twine is also smart, and if I start to type an N without a J in front of it, it'll ask me which of these passages I want. So I can say I want to connect to the new one, hit enter, and there we go. And now you can see they're connected. These are just different views, and you can quick find stuff in bigger stories using this menu. And yeah, that's pretty much all that you'll need. So that's Twine. Does anybody have any questions? Yeah.
How do you do the macro thing, or like how do you put stuff in inventory, I guess?
Let's look at this thing that I didn't write. Basically, you need to, first of all, tell it that there's an inventory and how that will behave. Why did I click away from that? Here's an inventory setup. So you need to, and it works slightly differently in every format. So if you decide that you don't like the look of Harlow, well, you don't care right now. Basically, here's some steps. You'll tell it how you want it to work, and she has like really nice illustrations as well. So what this person did was set up an inventory page that the player can get to. You don't necessarily need to do that, but it might be the easiest way to go about it. And then she tells it it's empty. So set inventory to this blank array. And then as the player goes through and interacts with something, she's created a new passage with that object's name and then given that passage to the inventory. So, okay, you found a smartphone. Now we're changing the inventory to be from empty to containing this smartphone. And like I said, you can use strings with commas, so you can do it like that. Blah, blah, blah. And then there's headers and footers in Twine pages, which are sort of like secret places to hide code, among other things. So she's put this inventory in the footer passage. And here's use of tags, blah, blah, blah. So in the footer, she's gonna have the game check inventory every single time, like this. And then she uses an if-else statement to control how the rest of the game behaves depending on what the player has. So see if this case, it's not gonna do anything. Check in, blah, blah, blah. And then it'll say your inventory contains a block. So this is kind of in depth, but that's basically how you would set one up. Does that make sense? I mean, it's a thing that I feel like you would have to read this and play with it more than me, like going through this whole mess, but. And then, like I said, it'll show like this. This is what's in your inventory. Yeah.
Question. You mentioned, I think you mentioned you had like a favorite variant of Twine. Like, I was wondering what the difference is, because I've never been quite clear between like Harlow and
Yeah, I'll actually show you because I interrupted myself. So if you change it, now if you don't want to use CSS, this is why I would change the story format. If we change it, okay, so we see how it looks in Harlow. If we change it to Sugar Cube, and then we test it again, don't behave like this. Sugar Cube, if I haven't screwed something up miserably, is black with white text to start and has a slightly different, yeah. You can have saves and a restart over here. And I don't remember what Snowman looks like, honestly. It might not look like anything because it's expecting you to tell it what to look like with CSS, but yeah, it's just a different font. It's pretty, yeah, and the links look different. I kind of consider Twine to be a gateway tool because if you're using Twine and you feel limited by the way that the 3 formats look, you might want to look up some CSS and the basic HTML and tweak it and change it. And if you get a great idea for a game because you've been making all these crazy Twine stories and you can't do it in Twine, that might be what makes you want to download Stencil or RunPy or something else and sort of explore more. So I really like Twine for that, just because there's a lot you can do with it, but then there becomes a point where you can't anymore and you're going to want to figure out something else that's fun.
So what do people do with the games once they've made them?
Whatever they want. Mine was part of my thesis. You can find them all over the internet in various places. One of my favorites is called Horsemaster, which got published wherever. But you can share them. You can, do whatever you feel to do with them. Twine actually wants you to put them in a database that they have for interactive fiction. And then there's one other, you can submit them to Twine and they'll show up on the Twine like kind of homepage, like things that have been made with Twine.
There's some other places where you can find Twine constructed games.
Oh yeah. If you go to, the website is twinery.org. So you can see, you can't see. Here's like samples of Twine. And they'll put them on their Twitter. And blah, blah, blah. One of the games from Game Club last month was a Twine game.
Oh, you can download it, it's not just web?
Yep. I'm just using it on the web because it was the easiest to
Is
like.
it portable? Like you can write the story once and download it for Windows or OS X?
Yes, you can. That's what I like to use Dropbox or Google Drive for. So I'll start it, like for example, this one that I made, I started it in the web client, I guess, and then I published it to file, put that file in my Dropbox, went home, opened it on my computer, and then I used this import from file and just put it in there. And that's how you would use your archives too when you save them. And then you would have all of your stories like in here, and then you could work on it, save it again, either archive it or publish it to a file, put it back in your Dropbox or somewhere, and then open it up someplace else. The only thing I think you can't do is switch between versions. So if you've got 1.4 or whatever on one computer and 2 on another, I don't think you can do that. But yeah, this has been written on 3 different computers now and 2 different versions of Twine. So like the web version and the downloaded version for Mac.
I heard Dropbox was going to stop supporting HTML
Why?
renderings, so I don't know if that's supposed to be in the near future.
You could still probably save it there, right? If you were gonna work on it against something else.
Yeah, I use it for the story stuff.
Yeah.
I also post my games there, and I'm not sure they would work in the future.
Yeah. That I wouldn't do. I would not try to host it from Dropbox, but I would, I think it'd be fine for versioning. And you can also work collaboratively in it, which I like. As long as you were careful with your versions. Like you could have it and send it to someone and they could add some sort of thing and then save it and send it back to you, and that would be useful if you're working on a team of some sort or for a game jam or something.
You mentioned publishing on places like itch.io.
Yes.
Would it be possible to show like
How to do that?
site or maybe just roughly like how people might do it?
Yeah. I hope Tara's not signed in. Nope. Okay. So this is itch.io. I'll log into mine. If I can remember what username I used for it.
You sure you want to put your email on?
Ha! Let me find out which email it is and maybe I don't care. Yeah, actually, you know what? Yeah, we'll just, no, it's fine. We'll just, spell my name wrong. That's what we'll do. Again, we will spell it wrong. Again. This is gonna take the rest of my natural life. Here we are. Oh, I had it wrong. Cool. Okay. So this is my thesis game. The Twine game's hidden. I'll post a link in the Facebook group because that's the only way you can share secret links is if it's not posted. But so you can see, you can just download it. And on the back end, which I can't show you of itch.io, it lets you like disable all the other versions, because you can see this is version 7, because there's still a bug in it, but there was a bigger bug in the other versions. Itch lets you name a price that you want, like set a base price or make it free or make it, a donation or however you want to sell it if you want. They do take a little bit of the money for themselves, but not a lot. And then you could just download it and it would, yeah. Like I would like for you to pay for it, but you don't have to. So you can download it. And what I like about itch.io is you can say, hey, I already paid for this. And then if you just need your download again, which I've done in the past, and then it would just download this file, which then opens up in your browser, just like this Twine game did. Because this was how I sent it to Taro initially. And you can tell it what platforms it's available for, and then on the back end it shows you how many downloads you've gotten and on what days and how much money you've made and things of that nature. So I really like it for this. Twine gives you some other site that they like you to upload to, and I can't remember what it's called now. I thought I put it in here, but yeah, I put it in next. Yeah, this one, which I've never used, but we can look at it. I didn't copy that. What is a Windows machine? Yeah, free Twine hosting. Oh, this one you don't need an account for. That's right. So you just log in with your Twitter and then upload the file, drag and drop it, and then there it is. And then it'll automatically announce it on this Twine account, so the Twine will know that you have created something using their tool, and they'll be very happy.
Is there a place we can get Let's Learn Twine?
Yes, I will post it in the Facebook group, or I'll just make it. Actually,
We should be able to post the link on the learn section of the TDGS site as well.
can I just switch this? No, I can't because it'll be X. Never mind. I can switch the projector, but it won't help. Yeah, I'll post that link in the the Facebook event for the group. And then you can download it in Twine and play with it and destroy it and see what you can do with it. Yeah, super simple. It's fun.
Are there any Twine games that you recommend people checking out if they want to see some examples? Of,
Yes, I recommend Horsemaster. Which is a little dark, I will warn. This is Horsemaster, the game of horse mastery. And another Twine game I really recommend, which was in Game Club last month, is Crystal Warrior Kesha, which I can't spell again. By Porpentine. Which is loud, just a warning. And obviously I recommend Depression Quest, but that's kind of heavy. If you want to have fun, I don't necessarily recommend Depression Quest. Anna Anthropy has made some cool, funny stuff in Twine as well, but she's made so many things that I can't think of some off the top of my head. Although the Twine website does link her guide, I think, in their wiki. But yeah, Horsemaster, game of Horsemaster. And I'm sure that there's more if you just explore and look through Twine's website or the places that Twine likes you to upload their things. Oh, did you? In Twine? What's it called? Do you want to share? Is it personal?
I shared that on Facebook.
Okay.
It's called the Silent Sheet.
Obviously, my thesis game, Transmissions, is in Twine. You can get that on my itch.io page, and you can pay me for it if you want. And I'm in the middle of making a couple of different goofball things in Twine as well. But someday I'll finish and upload. Well, yeah.
Isn't there some kind of like national novel writing
Yes.
Twine thing going on as well?
Yes.
The game jam.
Yes. Is it game jam? In itself?
It's a game jam. It's on itch.io.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so if you go to itch, you can actually see it. Go to game jams. It's in November. It coincides with.
Yeah, that's. That's too twee. I hate that it's called NaNoTwymo. Oh, this is September.
Yeah, this is a dry. It's kind of dry. It's kind of.
I don't know if I can honestly handle this on this computer. Oh, there's a mouse. Yeah. Let me teach you about programming when I can't use a PC to save my life. Corgi Jam. What is that? I want part of that. Making a game. Yeah, Twine and National Novel Writing Month.
You can do it if you want.
Maybe I will. Maybe I'll finish my Gothic romance game. Yeah.
You should totally make it. I don't know what I'm gonna make. I'll probably write down what I know.
You can write whatever you want. Twine is your oyster. So yeah, super simple, super painless. And you can just extend this out to infinity if you wanted. My game looks like a Ferris wheel because I'm unable to have things not look neat.
There was another sort of make games in Twine event for Game Jam. I don't know if it's a yearly thing, but possible. That was a fun one. I don't know if we're doing that this year.
That was Portland Times Jam, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That, I don't remember, alright, I might be about to lie to you, and I'm sorry if I am. I think, was Terrorboard the Speedball a Twine game? Cause if so. Yeah, it is. This is a horror game that was made in Twine. Just in time for October. Yeah. There you go. Twine. Woohoo.
We give her a round of applause.
Yeah. Thanks a bunch, Abby, for Twine lesson.
No problem.
Hopefully people will make some stuff in Twine.